Welcome back to Mrs. Steiner Reads. I'm Mrs. Steiner, and it's another great day to read another great book. So today I have a really hilarious one. Now, you guys have read fairy tales, right? Now don't turn it off yet. Be like, oh, I've read every fairy tale known to man. I know you have. You've read Little Red Riding Hood. You've read Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You've read Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You've read Sleeping Beauty and all the other ones. You've read fairy tales. They start with once upon a time and they end with and they all lived happily ever after. And those are Mrs. Steiner's favorite, aren't they? Because at the end I get to go, aww. Well, today I'm going to read a story about someone that's reading a story. So this book is called The Cat, the Dog, Little Red, The Exploding Eggs, The Wolf, and Grandma. That's a long title, isn't it? That's like a story in itself right there. Now, on the front, we already have the story starting. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the author real quick. There's actually two authors today, Diane and Christy Ann Fox. Those are our authors. So if you go to the library to find this book, you're going to find it in the Easy Readers or the picture books in the FOX Fox section. Got it? All right. Now, this story, which fairy tale do you think they're going to try to read? Is this a big clue right here? Little Red Riding Hood? Okay, we've read that story. Not that story. Okay, so here's Dog and here's Cat. And have you ever heard they fought like cats and dogs? Well, because cats and dogs are pretty much known to not get along, right? Well, let's see if they get along in this book. Now, on the front, Dog is already saying, it all sounds a bit complicated to me. He's right, because that title did sound a bit complicated, didn't it? Okay, look here. Now, this is the very front of the book. Look. You know how it has the pretty picture on or the pretty paper on the front? You say, ooh, that's pretty paper. The dog is saying, what's this page for? And the cat is saying, it's called the end paper, but it comes at the beginning. And look at the dog. That doesn't make any sense. Here's the title page. Here they are in the title page again. Notice what color paint the cat has, red. Okay. And the story starts with Cat reading a sweet story. Little Red Riding Hood. There was once a sweet little girl who lived with her father and mother in a pretty little cottage at the edge of the village. She always wore a red cape with a hood, which suited her so well that everybody called her Little Red Riding Hood. What's this? It's a story about a little girl who always wears a red cape with a hood. Cool! I love stories about superheroes. What's her special power? She doesn't have any special powers. It's not that kind of a story. So what happens? Well, one morning her mother asked Little Red Riding Hood to take a basket of eggs, butter, cake, and sweets to her grandmother. So kindness is her special power. Does she hypnotize bad guys into being nice? And what kind of candy? Look, do you want to hear this story or not? So where was I? Little Red Riding Hood was on her way to Grandma's house when she met a wolf. A wolf? Excellent! They're always the bad guys in stories like this. I bet she zaps him with her kindness ray. Zzz. She does not have a kindness ray. She has a basket of eggs and butter and cakes and sweets. How does she fight crime then? Does she have a cool kind of flying gadget basket? Are they exploding eggs? There's no kindness ray, no flying basket, no exploding eggs. She's just a sweet little girl with terrible fashion sense on her way to see her grandmother. Okay. So let's hear the rest of the story. Well, the wolf asked Little Red Riding Hood where she was going, and she said, Grandma's house. So the wolf said goodbye and secretly headed to Grandma's house. Hang on. Why doesn't the wolf man try to eat Hood Girl then and there? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? How should I know why he didn't eat her? I wonder why the wolf prefers old ladies. Anyway, the wolf arrived at Grandma's cottage and saw the old lady lying in bed. She jumped up when she saw the wolf and locked herself in the closet. I think the wolf needs to think bigger here if he's going to be a supervillain. Maybe he could rob a bank on the way to Grandma's house. Are you listening at all? Special powers? No. Supervillain? And no. Exploding eggs? And no. And look at him say, yes. He's not listening. Yes. Okay. So Grandma leaped up out of bed and locked herself in the closet to be safe. Then the wolf put on some of Grandma's clothes and climbed into the bed, waiting for Little Red Riding Hood to arrive. Hang on. So now you're saying he does want to eat her? Yes. Anyway, this is my favorite part. She arrived and said, "What big eyes you have, Grandma." And the wolf replied, "All the better to see you with." She's not very bright, is she? I mean, if there was a wolf dressed up as my grandma, I might have noticed right away. And Little Red Riding Hood said, "What a big nose you have, Grandma." And the wolf replied, "All the better to smell you with, my dear." "Let me see that book." And she said, "What big teeth you have, Grandma." And the wolf said, "All the better to eat you up." Do you see the cat following the dog? But just at the last moment, Little Red Riding Hood's father arrived and chopped off the wolf's head with an axe. Oh. And they all lived happily ever after. I'm not sure that the wolf was very happy in the end. So let's see if I have this right. The Red Hood is on her way to help an old lady when she meets the wolf man. He has an evil plan. He likes to dress up in girls' clothes and eat people. He and Red have a big battle and Red's father puts an end to Wolfie? Well, sort of. It's not a very nice story, is it? Are you absolutely sure this is a children's book? That's it. I'm leaving. Find your own book to read. Just one last question. What? Is Grandma still in the closet? Bonk! Ouch! And that's really the end of the story, but look, they're back. At the very end, he says, "So do these end paper things always come at the beginning?" Yes, unless they're at the end. That's hilarious. That book made me laugh from the front, the end paper, even though it's at the beginning, to the back, the end paper that's also at the end. So we learned something today. The end paper is at the front and the back of the book. But we also learned that it's not always easy to read to people, is it? It's not. Was a dog a very good audience member? He was not. He kind of reminded me of Interrupting Chicken in a way, because every time the story would get going, he'd say, "Oh, wait, wait, wait." And he kept questioning the story, which made it very funny for us, but not very funny for poor Cat. Now, let me tell you a little something, because in that book, Dog questions whether or not this is really a children's story. He says, "Are you absolutely sure this is a children's book?" Well, I gotta tell you a little secret. Fairy tales weren't originally written for children. The Brothers Grimm were the original writers of fairy tales, and they actually wrote them to entertain adults. Hence the reason we always have like a really bad guy, an evil wolf, maybe an evil witch. There's always some evil person in a fairy tale, right? Well, it turns out that those stories long, long ago were kind of scary stories, and they've watered them down and made them a little nicer, and so now children can read them. But this one didn't end too good for the wolf, did it? And that's how original fairy tales were. They didn't end well for the bad guy. Now, the bad guy sometimes gets locked in a closet himself, or he gets chased out of town. So usually the bad guy, he just runs away at the end, doesn't he? He runs back into the woods, and he doesn't have too bad of an ending. But not originally. Dog was onto something there. So there's a little secret. All right, so I hope you love this episode of Mrs. Steiner Reads. I'm telling you, this book cracked me up. Remember the title of that one? The Cat, the Dog, Little Red, the Exploding Eggs, the Wolf, and Grandma. That's a title, isn't it? On Tuesdays, you will still get Mrs. Steiner Reads, and I will be reading Easy Readers each Tuesday. But now, on Thursdays, you will be getting Let's Talk About Books, where I will talk about chapter books. Not long chapter books, and it won't go on and on forever. And I'm not going to read chapter books. I'm just going to show you a couple that you might be interested in. This is for my guys and girls on 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, those ones that really need to start doing book talks. So if you're looking for a good book, chapter book, tune in on Thursdays. Now, there's a few things I need you to do. I need you to like this video. I need you to subscribe to my channel, Mrs. Steiner Reads. And I'd also love for you to follow me on Twitter at Mrs. Steiner Reads and like me on Facebook at Mrs. Steiner Reads. You're getting it now. And you can also hit the bell and subscribe so that you get all notifications of when I post a new video. If you have a book that you would like me to read on Mrs. Steiner Reads, or a book that you would like me to book talk on Thursdays, Let's Talk About Books, just leave me a comment and I'll look into reading that one. I am looking for books. I'm still never going to run out of favorites because I have a lot of favorites, but I sure would love to read your favorites too. So I hope everybody's having a great school year, and I encourage you to visit the library at your school and also the public library. And I encourage you to tune in next week for another episode of Mrs. Steiner Reads. Keep reading. I'll see you guys soon. On Tuesdays, I'll still be reading Mrs. Steiner Reads. On Tuesdays, you'll still get to see a story that I read, a children's... I'm going to get this. On Tuesdays, I will still be... Hold on, there was something else. What was the something else?